Can you imagine if you're in the field and they're like, hey, figure out how to do A, B, and C, and you're just like, boom, right?
Yeah.
And so, I talked about that, and the reason why people get fat is your sergeant or whoever was in charge of you would not allow you to, right? They'd hold you accountable. Hey, be here at 6 and we're going to run. And then people get out and they don't hold themselves accountable and they just become fat. And then by the time you know it.
Do you feel like some of that's a lack of a mission?
Yeah.
Like we're prepping for the missions that we're expecting to be assigned, right? And then the facing of an enemy or a foe or a hurdle to get through. And then when you get out, there's really not, at least not that you can put a name or a face to. The mission, I guess, would then just be life. And that's so broad. Like, how do you prepare for that?
I think you need purpose.
Sure.
Right. Another thing I talked about, and I'm not going to say his name, this guy was in charge of me like a long time ago, right? And he did Fallujah. I did not. I'm a boot, right? And he calls me one day and he's like, hey, what's going on, Governor? And I'm like, hey, what's up, man? I was pulling in my parking space. I lived in California. And he's like, hey, motherfucker, you're going to listen and you're not going to say a fucking word. Do you understand me? And I was like, yeah, what's up, man? And he just kind of like is crying on the phone with me. And like, I got to like keep my emotions low when I'm like talking about this. But the guy was telling me like, I've killed plenty of people, in Fallujah, but there's one in particular where he said that they leveled a house and there was like a basement. And he's like, man, I heard a guy screaming. So he's like, I lobbed a 203 in there. And then he said, the screams got louder and everybody was like laughing as Marines do in those kind of weird situations. And then he said that there came a time when he was no longer trying to kill a guy to like kill the enemy. He was literally like, please stop screaming, right? So he said he just kept lobbing 203s down there and then finally he threw a grenade and the screams got less and less. And the last grenade he threw, the scream stopped. And he said that he was relieved and he was like joking and walking around acting like but in reality he was like, sickened by it. So he said out of all the things he did in the military, he's on the phone with me crying and he's like, I can't fucking, that guy, he haunts me in my dreams, man. And fucking, he's like kind of crying on the phone with me. And I'm like, I didn't experience that. I've had my own experiences, but that's pretty intimate. So he starts saying, how do you do it, man? How did cause at the time I was fighting professionally. I think I just fought for like Bellator. And so he's like, how do you do it? You're doing so well. And dude, we've all got our struggle, we all have our things that we struggle with. And the only thing that I could think of to say in that moment was you have to find a purpose. For me, it was fighting. And I was like, well, what do you want to do? And he said, what do you mean? What have you always wanted to do? And then crazy, dude, he said, I've always wanted to start a garden. And I'm like, okay, then what's stopping you? He's like, I don't know. And he's like crying on the phone with me. He also was like a heavy drinker at the time. So he says, I've always wanted to start a garden. And I said, okay, then this is what we're going to do. You're going to hang up the phone. You're going to go to Home Depot. You're going to go buy the stuff you need. And we're going to start. And I'm going to call you on Monday. I'm going to hold you accountable, right? I didn't say it. Did not realize that's what I was doing at the time. But this guy's in charge of me back in the day. And now the tables have kind of turned. I'm like, what are you going to do? You're going to do this. And I'm going to call you tomorrow. And he said, listen, I promise I can't tomorrow. I have to do something with my kid. But I promise on anything on Monday, I'm going to do it. I'm like, all right. And so I called him or I texted him, did you do it? And he sends me photos and I'm like, awesome, brother, So we really didn't keep in contact a whole lot. I kind of like talked him off that ledge. And then a year later or something, I don't know how long it was, but he posted this update on Facebook and it was beautiful, dude. It was like, so excited. I made salsa for my family. Everything in this salsa was grown here. And, he did his garden and he made a salsa for his family. But it wasn't the biggest, thing. But for him, he said, like, I've always wanted to start a garden, right? And he did it. And so what I'm saying is the garden's like the metaphor, right? For me, it was fighting. Fighting's not for everyone. I could sit here and be like, you need jujitsu, you need fighting, you need a garden. And the guy started doing art too, right? But everybody is almost like, they're attached to their own identity, obviously. And so I'll be like, try shooting competitions, man. It'll change your life. And so I think what it boils down to is just finding a purpose. Because in the military, it was pretty simple. It's hard, but it's simple, right? Mission, boom, right? Situation, mission, fucking wish.
Osmiak.
Yeah, execution.
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh, you want to know what's funny? A funny random story funny segue. My brain goes in a million directions. I did a board in the Marine Corps, right? And it was funny because I was in snipers and nobody is good garrison wise. And so they're like, we need one volunteer from a platoon to go on meritorious, corporal promotion.
Yeah.
And I was picking up corporal in like 2 months, dude. So I'm like, no, don't pick me. And I was like the garrison turd of my platoon. We all were, but I was like significantly.
The sniper platoon was the garrison turds.
But I was like, I just didn't care, dude.
Yeah.
I would be missing a button and would use yarn to tie it and it would open and people would be like, God damn it, Governor, right? And so they're like, you're going to go to the board and I have to fix my camis and get a haircut. And I'm like, no. And they're all laughing because they're like, this is going to be hilarious. So I go to this board and they ask me all these random questions about like the uniform and where the placement is on the chevrons for the females, attire. And I don't know any answers. And so for all 10 questions, I just looked at whoever and I was like, I do not know, First Sergeant. Right. And then they'd start laughing. And then like question 4, question 5 comes around and they're like, oh God. Oh, and they're literally all laughing. It's like a gunny and like 2 first sergeants. And they're just slamming the table like, no, dude. Oh God. Okay. Have you read the paper that we put out? We put out this paper. Have you read it with the current events? Let me guess. Probably not. And then I'm like, I did not. First Sergeant, and they're all like, this is going to be great. They're slamming the table. And they're like, did you hear about this tornado or whatever that killed it? And I was like, I did not. So then they get to the most basic, it was like question 9 or 10. And because I bombed on every single question and I said, I do not know for literally every question, the last question was, what does BAMSIS mean? Right? Which I know what BAMSIS is. And I knew at the time, but I just bombed all 9 questions and they were literally laughing with like tears in their eyes, slapping the table, that I just panicked. And they're like, what is BAMSIS? Right? And I was just like, I do not know, Gunnery Sergeant. And they were like screaming of laughter, smacking the table. And they're like, get the fuck out of here. And I was like, all right. But I did my pacing and I walked away. And then I came back to my platoon and I told them and they were like, it's fucking hilarious. They're like, yes. And I'm like, I'm picking up corporal in 2 months, dude. Why did you do this? And they're like, because it's hilarious. So anyway, random segue. But I don't even know where I'm going with that shit. But yeah, man, fucking, we just need purpose, dude. And if you find purpose, I think
everybody has their interests in, what draws them. And if they don't know, then just start saying yes to things. Like find an adventure and you'll find something that excites you and then pursue that.
Yeah.
And you helped him take action to something that he had clearly only given thought to until, and that's awesome, man. That's cool. You did that for him.
Just say yes, man. Would you kiss another man? Just say yes, dude.
Probably not that, but
damn it.
We're not all gay, Governor.
Marines, dude. I have a whole bit on the Marine Corps making me gay.